The departure gate at Logan International Airport buzzed with the controlled chaos of travelers preparing for the cross-country flight to Seattle. Elena Vasquez sat in a worn plastic chair, her 5-year-old daughter Maya curled against her side, clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. Elena's nursing scrubs were wrinkled from a double shift that had ended just 4 hours earlier, barely giving her time to pack, collect Maya from her neighbor's apartment, and rush to the airport. At 28, Elena had perfected the art of running on minimal sleep and maximum determination. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her face showed the exhaustion of someone who worked night shifts at Boston General's pediatric ward while raising a daughter alone. The trip to Seattle was not a vacation but a necessity. Her Aunt Rosa, who had helped raise her, was in hospice care and asking to see them one last time. The ticket had cost more than Elena had wanted to spend, eating into her already strained budget. She was 3 months behind on rent, her landlord had posted an eviction notice last week, and Maya's asthma medication had recently tripled in price. But family was family, and Aunt Rosa deserved to say goodbye to the niece she had helped put through nursing school and the great niece she had never met in person. "Mama, will Aunt Rosa like my drawing?" Maya asked, holding up a crayon picture of flowers and hearts. "She will love it, baby," Elena said, kissing her daughter's forehead. "You are very talented." As boarding began, Elena noticed the commotion developing near the first-class line. A man in an expensive suit struggled with a crying infant, a designer diaper bag slipping off his shoulder while he tried to simultaneously hold a boarding pass, a phone, and the wailing baby. He looked completely out of his depth, his handsome face creased with frustration and exhaustion. Adrian Blackwood was not accustomed to feeling incompetent. At 34, he had built quantum innovations from a garage startup into a billion-dollar artificial intelligence company. He had negotiated deals with Fortune 500 companies, spoken at international conferences, and been featured on the cover of business magazines. But none of that had prepared him for traveling alone with a 6-month-old baby. Lily had been crying for 45 minutes straight, her little face red and scrunched, tears streaming down her cheeks. Nothing Adrian tried worked, not the bottle, not the pacifier, not the gentle bouncing that the parenting books suggested. Other first-class passengers shot him annoyed glances as they boarded, clearly dreading 5 hours trapped near a screaming infant. Adrian felt panic rising in his chest. His assistant had booked the trip weeks ago for a crucial investor meeting in Seattle. The nanny was supposed to accompany him, but she had quit via text message yesterday, citing the impossible demands of caring for such a difficult baby. Adrian had been too proud to cancel the meeting, too stubborn to admit he could not handle this alone. As he fumbled his way down the jetway, Lily's cries intensified. He was vaguely aware of people parting to let him through, their expressions ranging from sympathy to annoyance. He reached his seat in first class, trying to figure out how to collapse the high-end stroller while holding a screaming baby. "Excuse me," a soft voice said behind him. "I'm a pediatric nurse. Would you like some help?" Adrian turned to see a young woman with kind brown eyes and an honest face standing in the aisle. She wore wrinkled scrubs and held the hand of a small girl who watched the scene with curious eyes. Everything about her suggested she was not supposed to be in first class. Her clothes were worn, her shoes scuffed, her backpack patched with duct tape. "I'm fine," Adrian said automatically, his pride overriding his desperation. "I can manage." But Lily's screams reached a new pitch, and Elena saw something that made her professional instincts kick in. The way the baby pulled at her ear, the particular quality of her cry, the slight fever flush on her cheeks. "Your daughter has an ear infection," Elena said calmly, not asking permission as she gently took the baby from Adrian's arms. The pressure changes during ascent and descent can be excruciating for babies with fluid in their ears. "Do you have any pain medication for her?" Adrian stared at this stranger now cradling his daughter with practiced ease. "How do you know she has an infection?" "I have been a pediatric nurse for 6 years. I have seen thousands of babies, and I know the signs." Elena swayed gently, supporting Lily's head while applying gentle pressure to a specific point behind her ear. Almost immediately, the baby's cries began to soften. See how she keeps pulling at her right ear? And her cry has that particular pitch that indicates pain rather than just fussiness. When was her last doctor's appointment? 3. The flight passed more peacefully than Adrian could have imagined. Elena worked magic with Lily, teaching him techniques he had never encountered in any of the parenting books filling his home office. She showed him how to create a makeshift elevated sleep surface using airplane pillows, explained the science behind why certain rocking motions calmed babies, and diagnosed that Lily was also teething, which compounded her discomfort. Maya, meanwhile, had fallen asleep against her mother's other shoulder, the stuffed rabbit clutched in her small hands. Adrian noticed how Elena managed both children with seamless efficiency, never seeming flustered despite having to care for a sick infant while entertaining her own daughter. You make this look easy, Adrian observed as the plane began its descent into Seattle. Elena laughed softly, careful not to wake either child. It is not easy. I am just practiced at pretending while being terrified inside. Every parent feels like they are failing most of the time. The trick is not letting the children know. I feel like I am failing all the time, Adrian admitted, surprising himself with the confession. He normally did not share vulnerabilities with strangers. My business partner keeps suggesting I hire a full-time nanny and focus on work. He thinks I am neglecting the company. Are you? Elena asked without judgment. Probably. I used to work 80-hour weeks. Now I can barely manage 40 between feedings and diaper changes and trying to figure out why she is crying. Adrian ran his hand through his hair, exhausted just thinking about it. My assistant quit last month because I kept missing meetings. The nanny who quit yesterday was the third one in 6 months. They all say Lily is too difficult. Elena looked down at the peacefully sleeping baby in her arms. She is not difficult. She is in pain and does not have the language to communicate it. Once her ear infection is treated, once her teething discomfort is managed, she will be much calmer. Babies are not difficult. They are just poorly understood. Would you be willing to write that down? Adrian asked with a tired smile. Maybe create a manual I can reference at 3 in the morning when nothing makes sense. There are books, Elena suggested gently. I have read them all. They do not help. They assume a level of intuitive understanding I apparently lack. Adrian watched Elena's gentle competence with something like envy. How long did it take you to figure all this out? I am still figuring it out. Maya is 5, and I still have no idea what I am doing half the time. Elena shifted as the plane touched down, carefully supporting both sleeping children. But I had Aunt Rosa to help in the beginning, other nurses to consult, and honestly, desperation. When you are alone and responsible for a tiny life, you learn fast or everything falls apart. As they deplaned, Adrian found himself reluctant to say goodbye to this woman who had transformed his nightmare flight into something manageable. He watched Elena juggle Maya and their worn backpack while he carried Lily and the expensive diaper bag that still felt foreign in his hands. Let me help you with your luggage, he offered as they reached baggage claim. We just have carry-ons, Elena said, gesturing to her small backpack. We are only here for 3 days. Adrian did not want to pry, but curiosity overcame his usual reserve. Business or pleasure? Family. My aunt is in hospice care. Maya and I came to say goodbye. Elena's voice was steady, but Adrian saw the grief beneath. She practically raised me, put me through nursing school. I owe her everything. I am sorry, Adrian said, meaning it. That must be incredibly difficult. Life is difficult. We just keep moving forward. Elena adjusted Maya on her hip, the little girl starting to wake. Thank you for the first-class upgrade. Maya will talk about the fancy airplane seats for months. Adrian made a decision that surprised even himself. Elena, I know this is forward, but do you know any qualified childcare professionals looking for work? Obviously, you saw my situation with the nannies quitting. I need someone who actually understands babies, preferably someone who will not quit after 2 weeks. Elena looked uncertain. I do not really know anyone in Seattle. I live in Boston. Right, of course. Adrian felt foolish for asking. It was worth a shot. There was a long pause during which Elena visibly wrestled with something internal. Adrian watched her expression shift from hesitation to calculation to something like resolve. I am a qualified childcare professional, she said quietly. Pediatric nursing includes infant care. I have 6 years of experience with babies in various medical conditions. I have references from Boston General Hospital. Adrian's heart rate picked up. Are you offering? I am facing eviction in Boston. I am 3 months behind on rent, and my landlord has already filed. Weeks ago, Adrian admitted, feeling foolish. She seemed fine then. Ear infections can develop quickly, especially at this age. Elena continued the gentle massage, her voice soothing as she hummed a soft melody. Lily's cries diminished to hiccuping whimpers. You should have her seen by a pediatrician as soon as you land. In the meantime, keeping her upright will help, and if you have infant pain reliever, a dose appropriate to her weight would make the flight more comfortable for everyone. A flight attendant approached, her professional smile strained. Sir, we need everyone seated for departure. Of course. Adrian felt panic return as Elena handed Lily back to him. The moment he took her, the baby began crying again, though less intensely than before. Wait, how did you do that? Elena smiled sympathetically. May I? She gestured to the empty seat beside him in first class. This section is full, the flight attendant interjected. Your seat is in economy, ma'am. I am aware, Elena said patiently. But this baby needs medical attention during the flight. I am offering professional assistance. Adrian found himself speaking before thinking it through. She is with me. Upgrade her ticket. The flight attendant looked uncertain. Sir, I cannot just. I will pay the difference. Whatever it costs. She and her daughter need these seats. Adrian pulled out his wallet with his free hand, juggling Lily awkwardly. Make it happen. 5 minutes later, Elena and Maya were settled in the plush first-class seats beside Adrian and Lily. Maya's eyes were wide with wonder at the luxury, touching the leather armrests with tentative fingers. Elena felt deeply uncomfortable accepting the upgrade, knowing it cost more than she made in a week, but Lily needed help and her professional ethics would not let her walk away from a sick baby. Thank you, Adrian said quietly as Elena took Lily again, the baby immediately calming against her chest. I am Adrian Blackwood. Elena Vasquez. This is my daughter, Maya. Elena smiled at the little girl, who was now exploring the first-class amenity kit with delight. Have you been caring for her alone? Is her mother? She died, Adrian said, the words still foreign in his mouth even after 6 months. Childbirth complications. Lily is 6 months old tomorrow, and I have been, struggling. Elena's expression softened with genuine sympathy. I am so sorry for your loss. Single parenting is incredibly difficult, especially with an infant. Do you have family support? My parents are in Europe. They offered to take Lily for a while, but... Adrian trailed off, not wanting to admit that he had refused out of guilt and stubbornness. I thought I could handle it. I run a successful company. How hard could caring for one small person be? Harder than most people imagine, Elena said without judgment. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small bottle. I have infant pain reliever. If you tell me her exact weight, I can dose it properly. It will help with the ear pain during the flight. As Elena administered the medication with practiced efficiency, explaining each step to Adrian, he found himself watching her with unexpected fascination. There was a competence to her movements, a calm confidence that he recognized in his best employees but rarely saw in his personal life. She treated Lily with gentle expertise while simultaneously keeping Maya entertained with quiet conversation about the airplane. "How did you learn all this?" he asked as Lily finally settled into sleep against Elena's shoulder. "Nursing school, pediatric rotation, and raising Maya. My daughter was born with a heart condition that required multiple hospitalizations in her first 2 years. I learned quickly how to read baby cues and manage medical needs." Elena's voice was matter-of-fact, but Adrian caught the underlying strength. "Maya is healthy now, but those early years taught me a lot." "And you do this alone?" "Forgive me for asking, but is there a father involved?" Elena's expression hardened slightly. "He left when Maya was diagnosed. Said he had not signed up for a defective kid and disappeared. We have not heard from him in 3 years." Adrian felt unexpected anger on her behalf. "I am sorry. That is unconscionable. It is what it is. We manage." Elena glanced out the window as the plane began its taxi. "Maya and I are a team. We do not need anyone else." But as the flight progressed, as Elena taught Adrian how to hold Lily for optimal comfort, how to read her different cries, how to soothe her with specific techniques, Adrian found himself thinking that maybe some people did need help. Maybe asking for it was not weakness but wisdom. And maybe this exhausted woman in wrinkled scrubs, who had helped a stranger's baby without hesitation, was exactly the kind of person he needed in his life right now. He just had no idea yet that she would become so much more. Papers. "Maya's medication costs have tripled, and I have been picking up every extra shift available, but it is not enough." Elena spoke quickly, as if afraid she would lose her nerve. "You need temporary help until you find someone permanent. I need money desperately. If you are serious about hiring someone, I could do 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Long enough for you to conduct a proper search for a full-time nanny." Adrian's business instincts kicked in, seeing an opportunity that could solve both their problems. "What if I paid you triple your hospital's salary for those 2 weeks? Enough to catch up on rent, cover medications, and have a cushion for emergencies?" Elena's eyes widened. "That is too much. It is exactly what I need to pay to find someone qualified who will not quit on me." Adrian shifted Lily in his arms, the baby still sleeping peacefully. "You helped me tonight without asking anything in return. You clearly know what you are doing. Let me help you in return while you help me. 2 weeks, maybe 3, and we both come out ahead. I have Maya to consider. I cannot just move into some stranger's house with my daughter. I have a large house with multiple guest rooms. Maya would have her own space, access to a pool and library, anything she needs. You would both be completely safe, and I can provide references from business associates, background checks, whatever makes you comfortable." Adrian could see her wavering. "Elena, I am desperate, and you clearly need the money. This could work for both of us." Elena looked down at Maya, who had woken and was watching the conversation with curious eyes. "What do you think, baby? Should we help Mr. Blackwood's baby feel better?" "The baby was crying on the plane," Maya said seriously. "You made her feel better, Mama. You are good at that." "I am," Elena agreed, then turned back to Adrian. 2 weeks. I help you with Lily, teach you basic childcare skills so you are not so overwhelmed, and help you find a qualified permanent nanny. In exchange, you pay me enough to solve my immediate financial crisis. After that, Maya and I return to Boston, and you continue with your regular life. Deal?" Adrian extended his hand. "Deal." As they shook hands, both felt the weight of the decision they were making. Neither could have predicted how completely those 2 weeks would transform both their lives, how temporary convenience would evolve into something neither had been looking for but both desperately needed. But that realization was still ahead of them, waiting in the complications and connections that came from two broken people learning to trust again. Adrian's house was not a house. It was an estate, a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and steel nestled in the hills overlooking Lake Washington. Elena stared through the car window as they approached, feeling her stomach clench with anxiety. The building seemed to float above the landscape, all clean lines and expensive materials, surrounded by professionally manicured grounds that probably employed a full-time gardening staff. "This is where you live?" Maya breathed, her face pressed against the window. "It looks like a museum." "It does not it?" Adrian said with a touch of self-deprecation. "My late wife designed it. She was an architect. This was her dream project." Elena heard the pain underneath his words and felt a wave of sympathy. She was beginning to understand that Adrian's wealth had not protected him from grief, that all his money could not buy back the person he had lost. The interior was even more impressive: soaring ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views, furniture that was clearly custom-designed, art that looked like it belonged in galleries. Everything was pristine, sterile almost, with no evidence that a baby lived here except for a few scattered toys in one corner that looked like they had been hastily purchased and never used. "The guest wing is this way," Adrian said, leading them through halls that seemed to stretch forever. He opened doors to reveal a suite of rooms larger than Elena's entire Boston apartment. "This is your room, Elena. Maya, you can have the room next door. They connect through this bathroom." Maya ran ahead, exploring with wide eyes. Elena stood in the doorway of her assigned room, taking in the king-sized bed with its luxury linens, the sitting area with plush furniture, the view of the lake that was probably worth more than she would earn in a decade. "This is too much," she said quietly. "It is just space. We have plenty of it." Adrian adjusted Lily in his arms, the baby starting to fuss again. "I should warn you, the house is fully staffed. There is a cook, 2 housekeepers, a groundskeeper, and a personal assistant who handles household management. They are all very nice, but I understand if it feels overwhelming." It did feel overwhelming. Elena had grown up sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with her mother and Aunt Rosa, wearing second-hand clothes and learning to make meals from whatever was on sale. This world of casual wealth and staff who anticipated every need was so foreign it might as well have been another planet. But she had made a deal, and Elena Vasquez always kept her word. "Okay," she said, squaring her shoulders. "Let's start with getting Lily to a pediatrician for that ear infection. Do you have one you use, or do we need to find someone?" "I have one. My assistant can call first thing tomorrow." "Tonight," Elena corrected gently. "Ear infections in babies should not wait." "She is in pain, Adrian. If you have a concierge pediatrician or access to urgent care, we should go now." Adrian looked surprised but pulled out his phone. "I will make it happen." 3 hours later, they returned from the pediatrician with antibiotics and confirmation of Elena's diagnosis. Lily also had 2 teeth coming in, explaining the extra irritability. The doctor had been impressed with Elena's assessment and had spent time teaching Adrian about infant care basics that he had somehow missed. "I feel like an idiot," Adrian admitted as they settled back in the house. "The doctor explained things you already told me on the plane. I should have taken her in weeks ago. You did not know what to look for. That is why you hired me." Elena took Lily from his arms, the baby already calmer with the first dose of antibiotics in her system. "Now, let me show you the basics. First, we are going to establish a routine. Babies thrive on predictability." Over the next several days, Elena transformed the household. She created feeding schedules, nap routines, and playtime structures. She taught Adrian how to read Lily's cues, how to distinguish between different types of cries, how to soothe her effectively. She reorganized the nursery for better functionality, suggested age-appropriate toys, and created a system for tracking medications and developmental milestones. Maya, meanwhile, had adapted to the luxury with the easy acceptance of children. She spent her mornings in the pool, her afternoons in the library discovering more books than she had ever seen in one place, and her evenings helping Elena care for Lily with gentle enthusiasm. "You are a natural with babies," Elena told her daughter one evening as Maya carefully held Lily's bottle. "Very gentle and patient. She is like a doll, but real," Maya said seriously. "I like her, Mama. Can we keep her?" Adrian, who had been watching from the doorway, laughed. "Lily is not a puppy, Maya. We cannot just keep her." "But she needs us," Maya protested. "And you need Mama. You did not know how to make her stop crying before we came." From the mouths of children came uncomfortable truths. Adrian met Elena's eyes across the room and saw his own growing concern reflected there. This arrangement was supposed to be temporary, a business transaction. But something was shifting, boundaries were blurring in ways neither had anticipated. Late one night, after both children were asleep, Adrian found Elena in the kitchen making tea. She had changed into simple pajamas, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking younger and more vulnerable than during her efficient daytime persona. "You are still awake," she said, startled to see him. "I cannot sleep." Too used to listening for Lily crying. Adrian poured himself coffee, even though it was nearly midnight. "Though she has been sleeping through the night since you started the bedtime routine. You have worked miracles here, Elena." "Not miracles. Just basic childcare principles." Elena wrapped her hands around her mug, seeking warmth in the air-conditioned kitchen. "You were trying to manage without any support system. That is nearly impossible with an infant. I thought asking for help would mean I was failing her. Failing my wife's memory." Adrian's voice was low, rough with emotion. "Caroline wanted this baby so much. She planned everything perfectly, the nursery, the schedule, the childcare approach. When she died, I thought if I could just follow her plans, I could honor her somehow. But nothing worked the way she designed it because she was not here to implement it." Elena set down her mug and moved closer. "Adrian, you cannot parent according to someone else's plan, even someone you loved. Lily needs you as you are, not as some perfect version following a script. And asking for help does not mean you are failing. It means you are human." "Like hiring you?" "Like hiring me," Elena confirmed. "There is no shame in needing support." They stood in the quiet kitchen, the house settling around them with soft creaks and sighs. Adrian looked at Elena properly for the first time since she had arrived, seeing beyond the efficient nurse to the woman underneath. She was beautiful in an understated way, all natural warmth and genuine kindness. When she smiled, it reached her eyes. When she laughed with Maya, it was real joy, not performance. "Can I ask you something personal?" Adrian said quietly. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Why nursing? You clearly have the intelligence and drive to do anything you wanted. Why choose such a difficult, underappreciated profession?" Elena smiled. "Because Aunt Rosa was a nurse. When my mother died of cancer, Rosa took me in and raised me while working double shifts to keep us afloat. She would come home exhausted but satisfied because she had helped people through their worst days. I wanted that. I wanted to matter in someone's life the way she mattered in mine. She sounds like an extraordinary person." "She is. Was." Elena's voice caught. "I got the call today. She passed away this afternoon." Peacefully, surrounded by friends from the hospice. Without thinking, Adrian pulled Elena into his arms. She stiffened initially, then collapsed against him, silent tears finally falling for the woman who had shaped her life. Adrian held her, feeling the weight of her grief, understanding in a way he had not before how much loss she had endured. "I am so sorry," he whispered into her hair. She was ready. She said she had lived a full life and was tired. Elena pulled back slightly, wiping her eyes. But I wanted Maya to know her better, wanted her to have more time with her great-aunt. It feels like everyone I love eventually leaves. Not